Part 92. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 911. Xiaoming was particularly respected, not only because he was mistaken for the undead Grand Mage. More importantly, he used Death Harvest. According to legend, Death Harvest was a magic specially developed by the top level of the undead to enhance the combat effectiveness of their tribe. As far as Delaman knew, this development had been going on for thousands of years, and it seemed that it had never been fully completed. Even those grand mages were not all able to master this magic. Suddenly, he saw this legendary magic skill in Xiaoming's hands. Although it was just a small-scale demonstration, how could Delaman not respect it? And the more important question was why this grand mage appeared here. Delaman was very lucky, hoping that the appearance of this master meant that Death Harvest had been completely completed, and Xiaoming was here to spread this magic. Of course, he was not qualified to learn it. If his boss Bremen had learned Death Harvest, he would be able to stand out from the crowd immediately. His psychological activities were clearly sensed by Xiaoming. Now he had a bargaining chip. But to be honest, Xiaoming did know how to use Death Harvest, but he couldn't teach it. He mastered the magic of Death Harvest inexplicably because he had used it many times in the game. Xiaoming believed that if he did not have the source energy, he would not be able to master Death Harvest. In this way, he could not teach others. How could others learn it without the source energy? However, Delaman's boss, Bremen, was only level 7, equivalent to a level A master. Even if he could not teach, Xiaoming was not afraid of him turning against him. So under Delaman's cordial invitation, a 7-star shadow clone, wearing a black robe, appeared beside him. He returned to the nest with Delaman. At the same time, the clone also told Delaman frankly that I was just a clone, not the original body. Necromancers are like this. Slightly powerful necromancers have many clones or substitutes. Xiaoming's clone is so unique that Delaman can only respect it more. He has no dissatisfaction. He also gave his spare mount, a level 4 undead warhorse, to the clone to ride. The speed of the undead army was not fast. After all, they did not consume all the low-level soldiers this time. They were dragged down by them and could not move fast. This was good. Bremen called 2 important necromancers under his command to accompany the great magician. The undead were actually taciturn. Apart from important things, they rarely talked nonsense, and even less greeting each other. In the eyes of humans, the undead were a group of guys who chatted awkwardly. Of course, the undead themselves were used to it. Even if Xiaoming's clone didn't speak, they wouldn't feel embarrassed. They just accompanied him all the way. Besides, the undead didn't chat with words. They mostly communicated with spirits. Even if they were talking, ordinary people couldn't tell. Some people might ask, since the undead didn't greet each other, why did Delaman call 2 necromancers to accompany him? In fact, they didn't completely stop talking. Generally, every 1 or 2 miles, a necromancer would ask 1 or 2 magic questions to the clone. If Xiaoming didn't answer, they didn't care, just thought that the superiors disdained to answer low-level questions. If they could get answers, wouldn't it be a profit? Delaman also had questions to ask, but he had just accepted a ball of death breath from Xiaoming. It would take a long time to completely digest and absorb it. And the first 1 or 2 days is the best time to absorb, so he needs to concentrate as much as possible. If he didn't dare to neglect the great magician, he would not have paid attention to Xiaoming's spiritual communication just now. Now he called 2 necromancers to take the bullet for himself. He has already communicated about the important issues. The other things can be handled by the 2 of them. They are just at the 5th level, and their mental defense is worse than Delaman. When Xiaoming communicates mentally, he can search their memories from time to time. Of course, they don't know much. Xiaoming roughly understands that Bremen's forces control a large area of territory, and there are several forces around. More importantly, in addition to not being able to harvest death, they actually master a lot more other undead magic than Xiaoming. Every time Xiaoming communicates with them, he can find one or two new undead magics from their memories. He learns those that are interesting. Some of them have to be abandoned. Since he acquired the expertise of skeleton soldiers, Xiaoming restrained himself from learning non-skeleton undead magics. For example, summoning zombies, summoning ghosts, etc. In the memories of these two necromancers, many are non-skeleton magics. This is normal. After all, skeleton soldiers are just one of the major arms of the undead race. Only a small number of necromancers are devoted to studying skeleton soldiers, and most of them study multiple arms. Summon flying skeleton soldiers, as the name suggests, consumes materials and mana, and specializes in summoning skeleton soldiers with bone wings and the ability to fly. And there are several types. The most common is the flying skeleton soldier without weapons, and the advanced ones include flying skeleton soldiers with swords, flying skeleton soldiers with javelins, etc. This is a high-level undead summoning magic. You should know that the lowest level flying skeleton soldier has the strength of level 3 or above, and the caster needs to consume a lot of mana to shape it. Standard main battle flying skeleton soldiers are generally around level 4-5. It is too wasteful to use level 3 to fight, so most necromancers will train them to level 4 before using them. In the confrontation with Qingkai Fortress, the flying skeleton soldiers in the Delaman army also caused considerable trouble to humans. This necromancer relied on this magic to firmly occupy the top 3 positions in the Delaman army. Even Bremen was very optimistic about him. Nonsense, who doesn't like the Air Force? In addition, the necromancer's specialty is weapon manufacturing. Undead weapons can be divided into several categories according to their sources. The most common one is conventional weapons, that is, weapons of humans or other races, mostly metal products. This kind of weapon can be used by the undead as soon as they pick it up. However, conventional weapons, after being eroded by the breath of death for a long time, are more likely to rot and decay, and it is difficult to last. Therefore, some necromancers specialize in how to enchant conventional weapons so that they can withstand the invasion of the breath of death. The second category is the exclusive weapons of the undead made of undead materials. One of the most common materials is bones. Many necromancers will create this type of weapon, which is more suitable for the undead to equip on a large scale. The third type of weapon is the most powerful, which is a weapon made by directly using the breath of death and special materials and using special techniques. The difference from the first two is the technique. The third type is almost equivalent to the magic weapon made by the immortal cultivator. It is extremely powerful and the output is also extremely low. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 912. The necromancer in front of Qi Yao's shadow clone is naturally good at the first one, enchanting weapons of other races, allowing it to be used by undead soldiers for a long time. Of course, Xiaoming hopes that he is good at the third type, so that he will have the opportunity to learn weapon refining. If it doesn't work, the second option is also possible. Let's also build 2 real-life undead weapons for fun. Unfortunately, the third type of necromancers who are good at refining weapons are extremely scarce, and Bremen has none at all. Bremen was reluctant to send out the necromancers who were good at the second type to wander around with the large army. They could just make weapons at home. Only those who are good at enchanting will often go out with the army, capture weapons of other races at any time, and enchant them at any time. Although Xiaoming was not very interested in this technique, he still learned it by the way. Even if it's not useful in reality, it might be useful in the game. Xiaoming really didn't know most of the questions raised by these 2 necromancers. There was no way, Xiao Ming didn't have the knowledge of the Grand Mage of the Undead at all. It's a fake. So later on, Xiao Ming took the initiative to ask questions, so as not to lose the soul if he couldn't always answer. While I learned a lot, I also gave each of them a little bit of high-purity death breath as a reward. It was much less than what was given to Delamain, but it was still a treasure for these two. This kind of high-purity death aura is rare, and even Brahmin will cherish it very much if he encounters it. You must know that the breath of death in reality will automatically and continuously spread in all directions until it is very thin. Therefore, a naturally high concentration of death breath is rare. The reason why the concentration of death aura in Xiao Ming's hand is extremely high is because he used his own source energy to create pure death aura. The concentration is certainly high. If left outside for a long time, it will gradually dissipate. Therefore, whether Draman or these two necromancers, they will be absorbed immediately after getting them. This march took about 10 hours before we reached the area covered by the dark sky. After entering the canopy, the undead clan does not rely on eyesight, and they can still move forward normally. But Xiao Ming's vision is limited, making it difficult to reach far. Fortunately, he can safely use his mental power to scan the map. In the fog, you are not afraid of being discovered by others. The skill of scanning the map comes from the Zerg Spiritual Sea. It is a strategic level skill, and the scanning range is very broad from the beginning. However, most of the time, Xiao Ming does not need to scan such a wide range. With long-term use, this skill gradually becomes controllable. Xiao Ming can not only decide the size of the search range, but can even conduct a mental search in a certain direction. Now Xiao Ming is studying how to make his mental search more hidden and less likely to be detected by others, just like his round telekinesis ability. Under the dark sky, the aura of death was obviously stronger than the outside world, and some trees began to grow sparsely here. Xiao Ming took a closer look and saw that it was the rotten tree he had seen in the game. Unexpectedly, this kind of tree is not fictional, but has its original form in reality. Just when he found it interesting, he discovered that the undead troops began to disperse after the army entered the dark sky. Groups of undead soldiers gradually left the large army and headed in different directions. Seeing this scene, Xiao Ming asked the necromancer a question. The answer was that these troops were led by their respective masters and headed to their respective territories. In the end, only a core force will return to Dramain's main city. At that time, Delaman will take Xiao Ming and the soldiers to Brahman's main city. It turns out that the undead society is still a ruling structure of feudal lordship. It's just that Brahman's main city is quite far away, and it may take until next week to get there. Xiao Ming wants to talk to Delamain. Can't we hurry up and get there first? Such a swaying march is too boring. Of course, Xiao Ming didn't really say it. Because from the spiritual communication, Xiao Ming has already felt that the undead really don't care much about the length of time. I believe that in their dictionary, there is absolutely no such thing as an inch of time, an inch of gold. Forget it, this is just a clone anyway, let them wander slowly. This clone can hone your skills in necromancy. Xiao Ming turned his main attention to other places. These days, Yin Xiaoming spends most of his time in his private world. Two girls, Little Red and Little Green, need Xiaoming's guidance after eating devil fruits. However, Xiaoming is not familiar with natural devil fruits at all, and many of his instructions are actually blind instructions. At last he was still in his right mind and didn't go too far without guidance. Moreover, according to Kyushu once told Xiaoming, armed haki can compete with natural fruits. Of course Xiaoming will give it a try with Xiaohong and Xiao Green. As expected, the opponent's elementalized body can be blocked by armed colored haki, and the body touched by armed colored haki will return to its original state. Before, Xiaoming's emphasis on domineering was only average, and he knew too many things. It's the same no matter what you practice. In the future, it is very likely that I will encounter people with natural devil fruit abilities. Since armed color haki has this special function, it really should be practiced more. The more convenient thing about domineering is that it can be practiced with the help of Kiyeo Shadow Clone. It's not necessary to have the original body to practice. Yin Xiaoming occasionally returns to the real world to observe the development of the situation. Obviously, the fact that the Umbu sent a team into the city and was completely wiped out has attracted attention from all sides. The atmosphere in the city is very tense. However, the time is still short, and the fluctuations caused have not really spread to Xiaoming. It seems that this matter needs to ferment for a while. Since he has come to reality once, he entered the Magic Planet game cabin and planned to randomly enter 1 or 2 secret realms to play. Unexpectedly, he randomly entered the secret realm of Hunter x Hunter the first time. However, Xiaoming had no intention of advancing the plot of Yukixan City at this moment. There was not enough time for him to have fun, so he quickly quit. The second time, he randomly entered a martial arts type world. When Xiaoming was thinking that this kind of world would not improve much, he suddenly had an idea. That's right, his energy level is too high, and such a world is indeed not very helpful to him. But there are advanced martial arts secrets in such a world. The Magic Planet game basically does not prohibit one's supernatural energy, and martial arts secrets are of little use, because the nine-tailed fox wants to absorb it. And because it cannot be identified, the Martial Arts Planet game prohibits all supernatural energy. This creates an opportunity. Wouldn't it be perfect if you could obtain high-level martial arts from the secret realm of a magic planet and then use them in the secret realm of a martial arts planet? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 913. Unfortunately, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Although the secret realm randomly found this time is a martial arts realm, the martial arts level is too low. There is only a superficial internal force in the entire secret realm. There is no decent kung fu at all. Xiaoming was still unwilling to give up and wandered around in it for a long time, but he didn't get anything. Xiaoming's enthusiasm was poured with a bucket of cold water. He was very unhappy and explored several secret realms in succession. The result was even more embarrassing. He didn't even encounter a martial arts secret realm. But fortunately, his mood finally calmed down a little. This kind of thing should not be tried by luck like this. It is best to obtain the corresponding props or permissions. So Xiaoming found the nine-tailed fox. However, the nine-tailed fox could not help with such things, because in the initial development of the game, the New Han Kingdom had strictly controlled the power in this regard. The privilege of choosing to enter the secret realm must be supervised by the human side, and the nine-tailed fox must not interfere. And the nine-tailed fox did not dare to show the desire for such power. What does he want to do with this power with an artificial intelligence optical computer? Does he want to cultivate his own spokesperson among humans? Therefore, the power to specify the types of secret realms, or even to specify a single secret realm, has always been controlled by the major forces in the New Han Kingdom. They use this to expand their own strength or reward the merits of their affiliated forces. At the same time, they can also trade. Tan Guangwen has bought access to specific secret realms before, and once pulled Xiaoming to play together. Maybe it's a good idea to find him. Xiaoming thought that Tan Guangwen could keep some of his secrets, but his external activities could not be kept secret. If everyone knew that Tan Guangwen was buying access to martial arts secret realms, would they think of themselves? Would it be troublesome to think of themselves? After thinking about it, I think the problem should not be big. But will it cause trouble for beef noodles? You must know that the strength of the Tan family is still relatively weak. Now their strength has just been strengthened and is in the digestion stage. It is time to spend money. In order to verify his guess, Xiaoming secretly checked Yeji through the telepathy between insect humans. There was no way, the other 3 insect humans were all girls, and Xiaoming was afraid that it would be inconvenient to connect to them. Only Yeji was the most convenient. Xiaoming did not need to talk to him, as long as he could feel the atmosphere in Tan Guangguan's team through him. Facts have proved that Xiaoming's guess was correct. Tan Guangguan now has 4 insect humans, 3 backup saints, 3 non-users, and several people who have learned some magic. They are all in the stage of needing training. Admittedly, they are now stronger, and they can go directly to the reincarnation space to make money. There will definitely be better gains than before. However, a more reasonable approach is to let them quickly and as much as possible familiarize themselves with the newly acquired abilities and maximize their combat effectiveness. In this way, in the next world, everyone in the Tan family team may get a lot of benefits. This is the fastest opportunity to cash out. After a few more reincarnation worlds, the system will improve the evaluation of these people, and it will be difficult to get too much benefit. Therefore, during this week, Tan Guangguan's main task is to comprehensively train the insect people, saints, and non-users. Training costs money, and you get what you pay for. Old Tan can't even provide everyone with the most appropriate training, the Tan family doesn't have so many resources. You can only choose the primary and secondary, so the insect people get a higher level of training, followed by non-users, and then saints. Magicians don't need special training, they learned magic a little longer, and now they are still practicing well. Not to mention the secret realm of the Harry Potter world. Xiaoming clearly felt the roar of "I lack money, I lack money, I lack money" from Tan Guangguan's life energy. Should I get him some money? This idea passed through Xiaoming's mind and he gave up. Don't do anything too much. If the Tan family doesn't work, Xiaoming can still ask the Li family or sister Hongqiao. But asking the Li family for such a small matter would be embarrassing for the so-called power behind the scenes. Sister Hongqiao has already asked her to get a magic wand for her. It seems inappropriate to add another thing in a hurry. More importantly, after such a long time of tossing and thinking, Xiaoming's passion has cooled down a bit. He found that there is no rush to enter the martial arts secret realm. He thought of some good things before and became impulsive. He didn't think carefully. After all, the plot of The Legend of the Condor Heroes can be dragged. If we don't practice martial arts well, it's over if we don't go to this secret realm. The Legend of the Condor Heroes is the ultimate secret realm in the martial arts planet game. In addition to Xiaoming, there are only a few players from the Tan family. They have no strength to advance the plot. So Xiaoming doesn't need to rush at all. As long as the time of playing is long enough, he can always randomly find a suitable martial arts secret realm in the magic planet and get the right martial arts secrets. It's better to take this opportunity to verify another idea of his. The probability of success is relatively high. If the east is not bright, the west will be bright. This is what Xiaoming slowly thought of in several random secret realms. In the real world, I cannot cultivate the internal force of the Changshengju because my energy level is too high. But this kind of low-level internal force is needed in Legend of the Condor Heroes. With the time Xiaoming has spent in the martial arts planet game and the speed of practicing martial arts, it will probably take a long time to achieve something. I can wait, but the game may not. By that time, maybe all the players will enter Legend of the Condor Heroes in large numbers. So the best way is to use the characteristics of the reincarnation space and your own characteristics. Solve the problem at one time. When the internal force is improved, the importance of martial arts will actually decrease. This can be seen from the fact that Xiao Feng defeated countless masters with Taizhi Changquan. The time spent in the reincarnation world is negligible compared to reality. I have 3 bodies and the dragon trapping wristband. Just put one body in a world with a higher energy level and the other two bodies in the martial arts world. Through the restrictions on my strength in the reincarnation space, the two bodies can practice the art of immortality. The body in the high energy world needs to regularly replenish the energy of the dragon trapping wristband, so that the time for practice can be guaranteed to be long enough. Practice for 10 or 20 years. If it still doesn't work, practice for 50 or 100 years. I just don't believe I can't do it. If I'm lucky, I can become a top master after one try. If not, at least I can catch up with the other 7 monsters of Jiangnan. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 914. August 20th, in the evening. Under the surveillance of some spies of different affiliations, in full view of everyone, Xiaoming chose to enter the reincarnation space. Nowadays, those who are qualified to follow Zhang Xiaoming are reincarnators. They can tell what it is like to enter the reincarnation space. Emergency notices were quickly sent to their respective forces. Everyone knows that Zhang Xiaoming formed the Mingjing team, so it is not easy to run into Zhang Xiaoming during the regular reincarnation tasks at 2400 hours every Sunday night. Team Mingjing occupies many places in a mission world. Only this informal time is the best chance to meet Zhang Xiaoming in the same mission world. First of all, during non-regular times, Zhang Xiaoming generally does not work in teams to do tasks. According to the surveillance of Lu Xiaojing and Zhang Wen, it is unlikely that they will enter the reincarnation space at this time. So the biggest possibility for Xiaoming now is to do single-player missions. In this case, there is a chance to randomly enter the same mission with him. Secondly, at this time, there are relatively few reincarnations, so the chance of everyone meeting each other is much greater than during regular tasks. If you are lucky enough to encounter a difficult task, it is the easiest time to see Zhang Xiaoming's strength clearly. How strong is Zhang Xiaoming? This is also a question that troubles all major forces. At first, everyone felt that they already understood it almost. I don't want the Qingkai Fortress incident to happen again recently. The army of hundreds of millions of undead was retreated by him alone. How could all the major forces not pay attention? Now it happens that he is about to enter the reincarnation space. This opportunity is too rare. Soon many reincarnators also entered the reincarnation space. Those who are poorer need to randomly try their luck to get into the same world as Xiaoming, while those who are rich can use props to track them to ensure that they can enter the same world. There are even some masters who have failed. There is no way, if you want to truly judge a person's strength, you have to be a reincarnation person who is higher than this person to have a better chance of seeing it clearly. Xiaoming doesn't know about the actions of the major forces, and doesn't take them to heart. He couldn't figure it out in his head, so he could only care about his own affairs. When you enter the reincarnation space, you don't have to bump around like a headless chicken like in the Magic Planet game. As a golden guest in the reincarnation space, Xiaoming has many props. Designated world invitation, each price is 200 points. Using it, the reincarnator can specify a world that he has visited before and visit again. Xiaoming once told Ant King Miruem that there was a way to send chimera ants to the world of Journey to the West, and he planned to use this prop. There are other worlds to choose from besides Journey to the West. This time, the world Xiaoming chose is Saint Ciya. Why did you choose this world? Xiaoming has his own plan. First of all, the energy level of this world is very high, which meets one of the conditions I need. The bracers of the trapped dragon are now available for use here. Secondly, as far as Xiaoming knows, this world only occupies a limited part of the Earth, and other places are usually other mission worlds. In this way, there is a chance to find a suitable martial arts world on the same planet. If it is another world of cultivating immortals, it may not be compatible with the world of martial arts. Although Saint Ciya may not be compatible with the world of martial arts, the probability is always higher. If it were the world of Journey to the West, Xiaoming doubted that the map would definitely not be the map of the Earth. There may not be an attached world for Xiaoming to sneak into and play. Finally, even if you can't find a suitable martial arts world here, the world of Saint Seiya is still worthy of your long-term stay to train your small universe. No matter how you calculate it, you won't lose money. Xiaoming didn't have many high-end props like designated world invitations. It really needs to be used with caution. Just when Xiaoming used the invitation letter, he received a prompt from Jianxin Tower. Dear Golden VIP No 007, we have found that 23 reincarnators have locked onto you and are tracking you. They will come to the same world as you. Do you want to prohibit their tracking? 23. I'll go, this is too embarrassing. But this is the world of Saint Seiyas, so wish yourself well. Xiaoming decisively chose not to ban it. If it is prohibited, Xiaoming's props will be consumed, which is not cost-effective. Saint Seiya belongs to a world where the energy level exceeds Xiaoming's ceiling. Not everyone can get away with it. And in this world, Xiaoming has no intention of going through the plot, he just wants to stay and practice his skills to delay time. It's not that easy for these reincarnators to find him either. On the contrary, in this world where masters are everywhere, the chances of them being killed may be even greater. With a hint of a bad smile, Xiaoming entered the world of Saint Seiya. Do you want to give me face like this? How can I be willing to leave? The three Xiaomings looked at the sky speechlessly at the same time. Why? Because Yin Xiaoming took Xiajia and Karama to the Holy Land of Greece. Lu Xiaoming led Xiaohong and Xiaolu to the Nordic Fairy Palace. Huang Xiaoming took Feiying and Suike to the Underwater Temple. At the same time, the three Xiaomings were favored by God's spokesperson and qualified to compete for Saint Seiya, God Seiya, and Si Seiya. This seems to be letting Xiaoming choose a camp. However, it does not say that if you choose one camp, you cannot choose another camp. After all, it is not the gods who choose the fighters themselves, but their spokesman. At this moment, Pope Saga, North Star Saluda, and Sea Dragon General Garen are all stronger than Xiaoming, but they are not strong enough to see through Xiaoming's soul. They all saw that Xiaoming's microcosm was infinitely close to that of the Gold Saint Seiya, and they felt that talent was rare, so they naturally extended an olive branch. If he knew the plot, Xiaoming would probably sigh and wish he could have a fourth soul and body. In that case, he would most likely descend into the underworld. Becoming a Hades warrior who could transcend life and death would bring him a very magical experience. Unfortunately, he didn't know these plots. He just wanted to be a Saint Seiya, a god warrior, and a sea warrior. These three awesome professions made Xiaoming unable to give up. Plans are not as fast as changes, and Xiaoming's previous plan was urgently suspended. Let's talk about the martial arts world later. The three Xiaomings implemented a new plan together. Xiaoming planned to figure out his microcosm in this world, improve his combat effectiveness, and it would be best if he could learn about various saint clothes. At this moment, Seiya was competing with Cassios for the Pegasus bronze saint cloth in the Greek sanctuary. That is the beginning of the entire Saint Seiya. If you are familiar with the plot, the reincarnation can choose to replace Seiya as long as you can beat him. Although Seiya is only a bronze saint, his initial strength is indeed only around sea level. However, the strength of the saints fluctuates too much. The strongest of the 5 bronze saints can explode to the point of surpassing the gold saints. They are almost irreplaceable. This has long been recorded in all major forces. Probably only ignorant young people will compete with them. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 915. In the Greek sanctuary, where the saints gather, many people are promoting the upcoming Pegasus Cloth War. Yin Xiaoming has no interest in this matter. It's just a bronze cloth, which is definitely not his goal. His current goal is to choose a master. In the sanctuary, the master chooses the apprentice, and the apprentice can also choose the master. The Pope clearly stated that this candidate called the leader can choose a master from the gold saints in the sanctuary, as long as the other party is willing to accept him. If Xiaoming wants to choose, he will only choose the gold saint. The silver saint may not be qualified to teach him, and Xiaoming is still confident in this. Of course, not every gold saint can do it. First of all, this person must still be alive. Aeolus of Sagittarius is dead and definitely cannot be selected. In addition, this person must also be in the sanctuary. Some gold saints, such as Tonghu, who Xiaoming met at the beginning, are not in Greece and cannot be selected. As a candidate for the Saint Sia, Xiaoming was allowed to wander around the zodiac during this period. Just don't do anything bad. In fact, Xiaoming's small universe can be clearly felt by other gold saints. Except for a few exceptions, most gold saints are willing to teach him. The main purpose is to see what kind of talent and beauty this rough jade can be carved into. In the worst case, you can also get yourself a good tool to practice. Besides, gold saints generally don't fight each other. If they want to compete with each other, they can only use apprentices to compete. Unless the holy war begins, then they can compare the number of enemies killed. But it's not time yet. Since everyone is interested in accepting this genius as a disciple, the 12 constellations quickly formed a tacit understanding. No one will take the initiative to seduce the leader. Let him choose for himself. So Xiaoming went all the way up from Aries. Mr. Mu, the gold saint of Aries, was not in the palace. He was dissatisfied and left the sanctuary at the beginning of Saga's usurpation of the throne. Now he lives on the Jamil plateau. If he was still in Aries, Xiaoming would not have to choose. This is a perfect teacher, not only has strong fighting power, but also has rich and varied skills. And he can also repair the holy clothes. Isn't this what Xiaoming wants to learn? Unfortunately, Xiaoming has no chance to see him for the time being. Taurus Aldiba is very powerful, but his fighting style is very different from Xiaoming, and he is definitely not interested in Xiaoming, who is afraid of death. If Xiaoming really worships him as a teacher, his true colors will be exposed in 2 days. By then, either Xiaoming will be beaten to death by Aldiba, or Taurus will be angry to death by the leader. One of the two will always go crazy. Then go up to the Gemini. Today, Saga is not very emotional, and he is hiding in the Pope's hall to rest. I don't know whether Xiaoming's luck is better or Saga's luck is better this time. The breath of the undead of Cancer Death Mask once made Xiaoming very interested. However, this guy is at the bottom of the 12 zodiac gold saints, and his life energy belongs to the kind that Xiaoming can see a little clearly. Intuition told Xiaoming, forget it, don't provoke him, at least not now. Xiaoming continued to move forward. Leo Iolia was similar to Taurus Aldebaran, both of whom liked to face head-on. They didn't get along with Xiaoming. In addition, Xiaoming found that Iolia's spirit was not quite right, but he didn't dare to make a move. So he walked directly through the Leo Palace. Next, without any doubt, Xiaoming stopped directly at the first female palace. Shaka didn't show any dissatisfaction. As a result, several other gold saints were dissatisfied with Shaka. Because before this, Shaka was one of the few who didn't show the intention of accepting disciples. Unexpectedly, this leader also took a fancy to Shaka. So everyone hoped that the aloof Shaka would drive the leader out directly. As a result, things went against their wishes, and Shaka actually agreed. Brother, don't you want to accept disciples? Then don't compete with us for people, okay? Helplessly, these words were only muttered in the hearts of several gold saints, and no one really dared to come and tell Shaka. Shaka can be called the closest to God, and it is not a joke. Without 3 or 5 gold saints, don't think about challenging Shaka. Xiaoming didn't know how strong Shaka was, but in the first female palace, Shaka, who closed his eyes and meditated, attracted all of Xiaoming's attention like a black hole. Soon Xiaoming had an epiphany. It was not Shaka's fighting power that attracted him, not even his small universe, but his realm. So Xiaoming took a few steps closer to Shaka, sat cross-legged at the most appropriate distance intuitively, about 57 meters away from Shaka, and quietly comprehended. At this time, Xiaoming didn't even know what he was comprehending. Everything happened so naturally. 3 flowers bloomed, each showing one branch. The Nordic fairy palace, another name is Asgard. Yes, it is the hometown of Thor in Marvel. In fact, this is normal. The god served by the Norse Asgard is Odin, the father of Thor. The origins of the two stories come from the same myth, so it is inevitable that the names overlap. At this time, Hilda, the ruler of the Norse Asgard, had not been attacked by Poseidon and put on a golden ring, and her personality had not changed much. She is still the gentle and kind goddess, the human spokesperson of Odin, the lord of the Norse gods. She is deeply respected by all Asgardians. Hilda is not interested in war. There is another person who values King Lu, Green Xiaoming, and that is the strongest god warrior, Alpha Star Tianxia Star, two-headed dragon, Checkfried. Of course, at this time, Hilda has not awakened the 7 divine clothes. So Checkfried does not have so many titles. His strength is too strong. In his eyes, King Lu's fighting power can only be said to be useful. What he really values is not King Lu, but King Lu's followers Xiaohong and Xiaolu. After becoming natural fruit ability users, Xiaohong and Xiaolu's strength has increased very rapidly. Currently, they are about B level. Because of their lack of control over the fruit ability, they are very obvious in Checkfried's eyes. Of course, this strength is only average. The biggest advantage of Xiaohong and Xiaolu is that they are girls. The god warriors are all men, and they can't provide protection by Hilda's side at any time. And the strength of other girls in the fairy palace is not very good. Checkfried is worried about the safety of Polaris Hilda. Suddenly seeing these two suitable women, he was ecstatic. In order to keep Xiaohong and Xiaolu, Checkfried did not hesitate to use himself as bait. Since they are the subordinates of King Lu, then the strongest god warrior is willing to teach King Lu how to use the microcosm. The price is that Xiaohong and Xiaolu become Hilda's maids and bodyguards. Where can you find such a good thing? Of course, Lu Xiaoming was happy to accept it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 916. Hello, Mr. Huang. I am General Heilong, who is under the command of Lord Poseidon, the god of the sea. The supreme commander of the sea warriors. A tall and handsome man with sea blue hair and wearing a golden battle suit stood in front of Huang Xiaoming. At that moment, Xiaoming almost mistook him for a gold saint. After careful observation, he found that his battle suit was slightly different from the style of the gold saint suit. Since he was under the command of Poseidon, the god of the sea, there was no reason for him to wear a gold saint suit, and he didn't know what this kind of clothes was called. General Heilong didn't know that this human named Huang Huiwang had already gone off topic to the brand of clothes in his mind. I just thought that he was shocked by his own style and couldn't speak, and he was secretly happy in his heart. Then he said to Xiaoming with a pleasant face. You are a person who accidentally fell into the temple of the god of the sea in a shipwreck. There are always some shipwreck victims like you every year. Our temple certainly has the ability to send you back to the ground. At this point, General Heilong paused, and Xiaoming knew that but was coming. As expected, General Heilong said. But it is difficult for shipwreck victims to survive. If you return to the ground safely, it will definitely cause social shock. This is also against the mercy of the sea god. So the sea god has allowed you to live in the underwater temple. In fact, the population of the underwater temple is now no less than that of a big city. You can live happily. Xiaoming disagreed with General Heilong's words. This is clearly the way for the underwater temple to increase its population. Huang Xiaoming's identity is a survivor who was stranded in the underwater temple after the ship was overturned by wind and waves. But then again, if people don't rescue these shipwreck victims, won't they still die? This is also saved anyway. You can live out your life in peace. As for whether the shipwreck was caused by Poseidon, Xiaoming doesn't intend to delve into such a complicated question. This is a world with gods. Poseidon is the sea god. People can even think that all disasters on the sea are related to him. This account cannot be settled. As a person who drifted in the underwater temple, Xiaoming naturally knew the existence of Poseidon and sea warriors. In fact, Huang Xiaoming's identity is a substitute sea warrior. Otherwise, his small universe cannot be explained, so the space arranged such an identity for him. This is similar to Yin Xiaoming's initial identity. Yin Xiaoming, who descended in the Greek sanctuary, was also a substitute Saint Cie at that time. Only Green Xiaoming of the Nordic fairy palace is slightly different. The North Star Hilda did not vigorously develop the combat effectiveness of the fairy palace. There is no such thing as a substitute saint warrior. However, the fairy palace area is cold and the climate is harsh. All residents have to actively exercise their bodies, and naturally strong people will emerge among them. This is the foundation of Green Xiaoming. In any case, Huang Xiaoming must play his role as a sufferer well. It turns out to be General Heilong. It is my honor to be able to live in the temple of Lord Poseidon. If it weren't for the mercy of Poseidon, I would have been buried in the belly of the fish. General Heilong was very satisfied with Huang Huiwang's statement. What satisfied him was not Huang Huiwang's respectful attitude towards Poseidon. On the contrary, Huang Huiwang's disrespectful heart was in line with General Heilong's wishes. At least he could see that Huang Huiwang did not devote his faith to Poseidon completely. General Heilong was a man with ulterior motives, so he needed some people who were not loyal to the god of the sea. Unfortunately, in the underwater temple, people who were not loyal to Poseidon were rare. It was too hard to find. Huang Huiwang finally came, so of course he had to seize the opportunity. After confirming that Huang Huiwang's faith in the god of the sea was not high, General Heilong secretly made a move. The first move was the ultimate move, Illusionary Demon Emperor Fist. The legendary magic fist directly attacks and controls the opponent's brain. The person affected will obey the orders of the caster as if hypnotized, like a puppet. Unless the person designated by the caster is killed or the designated task is completed, he will not wake up. Even after death, the effect still exists, which shows how terrible this move is. However, General Heilong's move, which had never failed, became his own death knell. This can only be blamed on General Heilong being too reckless. This trick can be used on anyone, but it has to be used on Xiaoming. Xiaoming's strongest point is his mental strength. Since he is going to do this, why bother about whether Huang Huiwang believes in Poseidon? The reason is simple. The deeper the belief, the tougher the spirit. Maybe his mental strength is not high, but it is difficult to break. In addition, he will be protected by God. Therefore, the particularly loyal sea warriors cannot be controlled by General Heilong. Only those who are half-hearted and unsteady in faith like Xiaoming are easy to control. People like Xiaoming who have a strong microcosm but unsteady faith are quite rare. Some people may have doubts, since General Heilong can find that Huang Xiaoming has little faith in Poseidon. Then won't the gold saints, especially Shaka, find that Silver Xiaoming's belief in Athena is not very firm? Of course they found it. It's just that the philosophy of the saints is different. Although Xiaoming's belief is not firm, his heart is kind. This coincides with Athena's intentions. The gold saints are willing to teach good people. Besides, it is common for substitute saints to have unsteady faith. Given time, a good person like the Master will be easily moved by Athena's kindness and become a saint with pure faith. The gold saints are confident of this. It is for this reason that the leader was accepted by the Greek sanctuary. Let's talk about the mistakes of Heilong's sneak attack on Xiaoming. Of course, the level of General Heilong's spiritual power is not worse than Xiaoming's. His stamina may be insufficient, but his attack skills are actually better than Xiaoming's. You should know that Xiaoming's spiritual power level can be regarded as A level, but General Heilong's spiritual power attack is at least A and level, and it has even begun to approach S level. After all, he is the man who has confused the sea god. Why does this sentence sound a bit wrong? Forget it, it doesn't matter. Although General Heilong's spiritual power skills are strong, his own problems are too big. He can still be invincible when encountering low-level players, but when he encounters a spiritual power master like Xiaoming, General Heilong will inevitably be unable to cope with it. Facing Xiaoming's moon-reading world. At the beginning, he was able to maintain the momentum of attack. Soon, under the tenacious resistance of Xiaoming's spiritual power, he began to doubt himself. It doesn't make sense. An ordinary person, whose microcosm is not at the level of the seventh sense, how can he compete with my General Heilong? Could it be that my level has declined? Or is the sea god beginning to punish me? After all, the sin of deceiving God is very serious. Once he had doubts, General Heilong's spiritual combat power began to drop drastically. Soon he was trapped in Xiaoming's moon-reading space. He only felt that the other party was getting stronger and stronger. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 917. Although Huang Huiwang is not a god, General Heilong felt a little bit of God's shadow from his spiritual power and microcosm. Powerful, vast, and supported by a large number of believers. When Heilong thought that the other party might be a god, he lost confidence even more. Yes, Xiaoming has believers. In the hearts of insect humans, Xiaoming is a god. As the number of insect humans increases, Xiaoming absorbs their faith, and his spiritual power and microcosm do have some shadows of God. In the process of subduing General Heilong, Yin Xiaoming also provided support. He comprehended the microcosm beside Shaka, which was very helpful for the improvement of his own realm. Under the blessing of this mysterious state, Huang Xiaoming was able to imprison General Heilong's soul in the moon-reading world. Otherwise, with General Heilong's strength close to S level, even if he could not hurt Xiaoming with a sneak attack, he could still escape. Of course, it is inevitable to suffer some damage, but he will not be captured. Xiaoming was also a little at a loss. Even though he had imprisoned General Heilong's soul with the moon-reading space, he was still a little confused at this moment. He had never expected that General Heilong, who looked so handsome, would sneak attack him without warning during the conversation. This was too tasteless. What was even more unexpected was that he had never messed with him. When Xiaoming was attacked by the phantom demon Emperor Fist just now, he was ready to die once. Unexpectedly, after barely holding on, the opponent actually became weak first. He was trapped by himself in the backhand. Could this be the legendary loss of both the wife and the army? Of course, even though Xiaoming imprisoned his soul, General Heilong did not give in immediately. He was still desperately resisting Xiaoming's mental pressure. I don't know when he can break through his psychological defense. Huang Xiaoming handed the moon-reading space to Yin Xiaoming, who was safer. His eyes turned to General Heilong's body. Because he was planning to sneak attack Huang Huiwang, General Heilong specifically found a place where there was no one around to do it. There was no need to worry about being discovered for the time being. But it's not a good idea to leave such a soulless body here. By the way, let's talk about the situation of Poseidon's underwater temple. This is a temple hidden deep under the water, but there is no water in the temple. It's the same in the temple as on the surface. The bottom of the sea is like the sky, shining high in the sky of the temple. The scenery is very beautiful. Xiao Ming thought about putting the body of the sea dragon into the bright summit to absorb it, but he was worried about losing the general sea dragon, and the sea warriors would definitely look for it vigorously. The matter would get out of hand. Maybe the sea warriors would conduct an internal cleanup, and would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let one go. I'm afraid I'll be finished by then, and many innocent people will be implicated. Let's just do this. After absorbing the general sea dragon, I will use my transformation ability to pretend to be him for a while. However, I'm afraid that I can't hide it from the other generals among the sea warriors. But then I should have time to run away, and the advantage of doing this is that I won't implicate innocent people. After making up his mind, Xiao Ming wanted to absorb the general sea dragon. However, at that moment, Xiao Ming's intuition told him not to do this. Although he didn't know why, Xiao Ming still stopped the action. Since he couldn't absorb it, he would try another method. Remember that Xiao Ming had absorbed the symbiote in the Marvel world? This means that Xiao Ming can transform himself into a symbiote. Then he can parasitize General Heilong in the form of a symbiote. In this way, he can keep his body and borrow his identity. As long as he pays attention to hiding from the other generals, there shouldn't be any problems. In fact, among the generals of the Sea Warriors, only 1 or 2 can really see the difference between Xiao Ming's microcosm and Heilong's microcosm. But Xiao Ming didn't know this. He had only seen General Heilong and thought that the other generals were only slightly worse than Heilong. Of course, he planned to hide. As a result, on his way back to the underwater temple, he met a female sea warrior in red armor. He almost misunderstood her as one of the 7 generals. After a careful feeling, he found that her microcosm was not good. It was probably at the level of the Silver Saint Seiya. Only then did he feel relieved. "Brother Heilong, why did you come here? It's easy for the thieves to find you." During the conversation, the girl seemed to be quite familiar with Heilong. There was even a hint of coquettishness in her voice. Unfortunately, Xiao Ming had not yet broken through General Heilong's psychological defenses and had not mastered his memory. He really didn't know who this little girl was. Fortunately, she called herself Tethys. This saved Xiao Ming from calling the wrong name. "Are you looking for me for something? Are you naughty and causing trouble again?" Xiao Ming asked vaguely and slightly dotingly. Tethys, who was wearing red armor, jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. "I'm not causing trouble. It's just that there are new victims coming to the vicinity of the temple, and I want to find Brother Heilong to deal with them." As he was talking, several sea warriors wearing green armor came. Xiao Ming was familiar with this kind of armor. It belonged to the regular army of sea warriors, and could also be considered as miscellaneous soldiers. Xiao Ming suddenly had an idea and pretended to reprimand Thetis. "You are just too playful. No, I will take you out for special training. How can you protect the temple of Poseidon with such little strength?" Okay, I have wanted to go out and play for a long time." The girl was actually very happy, but then she asked in confusion. "Brother Heilong, I will be out for a while. If you leave, who will be responsible for the affairs of the temple?" "Surant. Of course. He is the most suitable." Xiao Ming felt that this girl who was not very strict with her words was really considerate. He turned to the other sea warriors and soldiers and asked, "Did you hear what I said just now?" "Yes. General Heilong. Go back and tell General Surant that during my absence, all affairs of the Temple of Poseidon will be managed by him. I will come back after the training of Tethys is completed. Do you understand?" In his tone, Xiaoming can use a little mental pressure to show the majesty of the superior. Sure enough, the eyes of several soldiers looked at Xiaoming differently. Yes. General Heilong, this kind of thing is not the turn of these soldiers to question. Although it is rare for General Heilong to leave the temple. But he is indeed more doting on the mermaid Tethys. Now it is reasonable to say that we should find a place to give the little girl a special treatment. I and others will go back and report it truthfully. So I watched Tethys and Heilong walk away. Several people were envious, wishing they could receive special training from Lord Heilong. They wouldn't have to be soldiers anymore. On the other hand, Tethys had no awareness of being trained, and seemed to treat this as a spring outing. He led the way in front with great interest. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 918. Soon after Huang Xiaoming parasitized the sea dragon general and the mermaid Tethys set off. Fei Ying and Sui Ke also quietly left the underwater temple. Without anyone noticing, the brothers and sisters found a place to play by themselves. Huang Huiwang disappeared from the underwater temple, and his followers Fei Ying and Sui Ke were naturally in a suspicious place. So it was better to leave quickly. After all, Huang Xiaoming's body was already parasitic on the sea dragon, and at most he could only send a 7-shadow clone to replace himself. The 7-shadow clone, ordinary A-level masters may not be able to see it. However, this is the temple of Poseidon after all, and it is unknown when the reincarnation of Poseidon may come to take a look. Xiaoming estimated that the 7-shadow clone probably could not hide from the eyes of God. Xiaoming even suspected that even the 7 generals of the sea warriors had a high probability of seeing through the 7-shadow clone. He used the level of the gold Saint Seiya to measure the 7 generals of the sea warriors. In fact, he overestimated them a little bit. In this situation, Xiaoming felt that it was not good to let Fei Ying and Sui Ke stay in the underwater temple. It was too dangerous. Xiaoming originally planned to let the brother and sister hide in Guangmingding to play. But Fei Ying was unwilling. To be honest, the scenery under the sea is very nice, just right to play with his sister. They were not willing to go to Guangmingding. Huang Xiaoming couldn't persuade Fei Ying. Anyway, the two of them were his followers. They could be resurrected even if they died. As long as they didn't provoke the gods, they could do whatever they wanted. Of course, Xiaoming sent 3 Qi Ying clones to replace the 3 of them. One day at a time. Try to avoid the masters. If you are lucky and have not been discovered, leave room for the 3 of you to come back. Traveling with the beautiful girl, Xiaoming is very relaxed and comfortable. He is a lazy man himself, how can he really urge Tethys to practice? Xiaoming and Tethys always practice for a while every day, and then play happily in the sea. Besides, Xiaoming was mainly trying to get her to talk, to learn more about General Heilong and the situation of the underwater temple. Practicing is not important. At this time, the war in the sanctuary had not yet broken out, and the temple of Poseidon had not made any preparations for war. The overall atmosphere in the seabed was still very peaceful. In Japan, the first page of Saint Seiya, the Galaxy War chapter finally began. The reincarnation of the goddess Athena, Miss Kido Saori, held a Galaxy Arena tournament. 10 bronze saints participated in this arena tournament, and the final winner will receive the gold armor of Sagittarius. These bronze saints were all orphans adopted by Mr. Kido Mitsumasa, a total of 100, and were sent to various parts of the world to receive training as saints. Among them, only a few really became bronze saints. 100 orphans, 10 bronze saints, the ratio of success is already quite high. In this competition, the reincarnator has the opportunity to grab a place to participate in the competition from any bronze saint. It is indeed difficult to grab the bronze 5 little warriors, but the other 5 supporting roles can be grabbed, right? As a result, every time the world of Saint Seiya appears, the other 5 places will be fought over by the reincarnations. Zhou and other Bronze Saints often lose the opportunity to participate in the Galaxy War arena because of this. It is quite miserable to say that it is not the protagonist who has no human rights. This time there are more masters from this world. Of course, reincarnations above a certain level are not eligible to participate in the competition. After all, the 5 little warriors at this time are not mature enough, and they may really capsize in the gutter. Therefore, A-level and S-level reincarnations will definitely not have the opportunity to participate. Even B-level reincarnations have to pay a great price to squeeze in. They may not be able to beat the 5 little warriors. The opportunity is not easy to grasp. If you are lucky, it is basically impossible to get a full set of holy clothes, but you may get 1/9 of the parts. This is also very valuable. The reincarnationists who came to track Xiaoming, as well as the reincarnationists who came to this world randomly, gathered in Japan at this time according to the requirements of the main task. Many of them were looking for Xiaoming. They didn't want to do anything to Xiaoming, but just wanted to find a target to observe. They thought Zhang Xiaoming would not give up the opportunity to obtain the golden armor. At this time, the 3 Xiaomings were all in a state of information blockade. They didn't know there was such a competition. But even if he knew, it was only a 50-50 chance to come or not. This kind of limelight has always been something Xiaoming tried his best to avoid. Besides, this opportunity is actually quite slim. What is the golden armor? It is an A-level offensive and defensive armor. If used well, it can exert the power of S-level. Priceless treasure. Even the top families on Pangustar, such as the royal family of the 12 kings, would cherish it very much if they could own a golden armor. This shows how difficult it is to obtain. The reincarnationists felt that even if Xiaoming was not interested in the armor, he should come to see it under the requirements of the task. Therefore, in this competition, many reincarnationists were paying attention to everyone, trying to find Zhang Xiaoming who was hiding among them. Unfortunately, they were destined to be disappointed. Yin Xiaoming now faces a golden holy garment every day, and the scale garment worn by Huang Xiaoming is no less than the golden holy garment. It really doesn't matter. It's not that no one has found Zhang Xiaoming's trace. Several masters used the props of the reincarnation space to find the location of the leader. It's in the 12 golden palaces of the Greek sanctuary. But they couldn't find out which palace it was. I want to search the 12 zodiacs one by one. Haha, this is not the way to play. What kind of existence is the gold saint? The weakest among them is also an A-level master. There are several quasi-S level, and even S level. Going wild here is something that no force in Pangustar dares to do. Many people are inquiring about the news of the leader in other areas of the Holy Land outside the 12 zodiacs. But Xiaoming has basically never appeared in the periphery and has no friendship with anyone. Everyone only knows that there is such a candidate Saint Xiya, and those who are well informed also know that the leader will worship under a certain gold Saint Xiya. No one knows more. Just this little bit of news has made many people envious and jealous. Being able to receive the guidance of the gold Saint Xiya. This is no longer a green smoke coming out of the ancestral grave, this is a mushroom cloud coming out of the ancestral grave. How can you have such good luck? Some masters who know more about Zhang Xiaoming's background nodded in approval. It's true to his reputation. As expected of a dark horse that suddenly appeared, he was able to get such a start in the world of Saint Xiya. They felt that they had a deeper understanding of the forces behind Zhang Xiaoming. At the same time, they also had new ideas about how to define the relationship with Zhang Xiaoming. Of course, these are actually misunderstandings. But this kind of misunderstanding is also what Xiaoming wants. It's best to be cautious. The more mysterious and powerful the so-called forces behind Xiaoming appear, the more secure his own safety, the safety of his family, and the safety of his friends will be. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 919. Big Iron Man, transform, transform. A group of children from the Nordic fairy palace surrounded Zygia, clapping their hands and shouting. The leader was none other than Freya, the sister of Hilda the North Star. Zygia was already used to these children, and there was no need to ask Lu Xiaoming. With the sound of click, 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 cool, a huge Iron Man turned into an armed bulletproof car. Freya cheered and squeezed into the car with a dozen children. Fortunately, the car was big enough and the children were small enough, so they all squeezed in. Go, several children shouted in unison, and the bulletproof car drove out with a thump, thump sound, and there was continuous laughter. Not only were the children laughing, but even the adults along the way were laughing. This scene was played out several times a day. No one cared whether Freya had a driver's license or not. This situation should be considered as the car driving automatically, and it really has nothing to do with the driver's license. In the original work, Queen Hilda was attacked by Poseidon, the god of the sea, and put on a golden ring. Her character changed drastically, and she led the saints to start a war against the sanctuary. Her younger sister Freya sensed the abnormality of her sister's microcosm, and stood up very strongly to help the saints save her sister. She is a little adult-like character. However, that quality only appeared when the crisis came. In the peaceful and tranquil Asgard, Hilda and all the saints doted on her very much. Now Freya is more like a child king and a little naughty bag. This is so capable. Today they came to play with Zygia again. Hey, shouldn't Zygia and Karama be in the Greek sanctuary with Yin Xiaoming? Why are they here? It's like this. Originally, Yin Xiaoming was practicing in the first girl palace, and Karama and Zygia were wandering around the sanctuary as followers of the leader to collect some information. However, soon a reincarnation came to the sanctuary. Karama was very clever and immediately took Zygia to the first girl palace to find Yin Xiaoming. Xiaoming originally thought that he would let the two of them come in to practice and benefit from it. But they could not enter the first girl palace at all. Obviously, Shaka disagreed. In Shaka's view, this kind of practice can only be accepted by people with predestined and realm, and Zygia and Karama are definitely not qualified. There may be many reasons why Xiaoming was allowed. Maybe it was because of the magic of the dead, maybe it was because of the source energy. Anyway, Shaka didn't say it, and Xiaoming didn't dare to ask. If he asked, it might be a misunderstanding. Once the misunderstanding was clarified, Shaka might not want Xiaoming. This possibility is very high. So Xiaoming cherished this opportunity and practiced honestly beside Shaka. He turned a deaf ear to the outside world. At the same time, the strongest god warrior Czech Fried promised to train King Lu, Green Xiaoming, but it did not really start. Because Xiaoming saw that the life of the residents of the Asgard was too hard. So he took the initiative to propose to use his abilities to help the Asgard live a better life. Queen Hilda has always believed that the suffering in the Asgard is a test from the great god Odin, and should be accepted sincerely. King Lu asked in return, since the cold is a test, why do we still need to wear clothes to keep warm? Although the great god Odin has brought suffering, his meaning should be that everyone should overcome suffering, rather than escape or wait for death. Hilda thought it made sense and allowed King Lu to give it a try. So Xiaoming launched a vigorous production and construction in the Nordic Asgard, the Asgard. Because Xiao Hong and Xiao Lu followed Queen Hilda as bodyguards. Xiaoming teleported Xiaojia and Karama, who had nothing to do in the Greek sanctuary, to help. Karama was okay, but Xiaojia's ability to transform immediately aroused the curiosity of the children, so he soon became a toy for a group of children such as Freya. 3 seconds of silence for him. Let's not talk about Xiaojia's miserable life. Let's see how Xiao Ming helped the Asgard. He planned to improve the quality of life of the residents of the fairy palace from the aspects of food, clothing, housing, and transportation. It felt like he was back to his old job. The first item, clothes, was actually not in short supply here. If they couldn't even handle this, they would have frozen to death long ago. Although there was not much, it was barely enough. The second item, food, was the most lacking. This place was close to the North Pole, and it was cold all year round. There were very few plants that could grow, and even fewer animals. Although there were marine creatures that could be hunted, the trouble was that with the advancement of world civilization, marine creatures had been hunted a lot by major companies in various countries. Therefore, the residents of the fairy palace did not dare to hunt too much, for fear that they would accidentally exterminate a certain biological community. So reducing hunting caused a shortage of food. This was Zhang Ma's strength. There were few plants on Earth that were suitable for this place. However, there were all kinds of exotic plants in the demon realm. In addition, Xiao Ming also got a lot of plants from Marvel from the collectors in the Marvel world. These were all managed by Zhang Ma. He quickly found several plants that were suitable for growing in the cold environment of Northern Europe. Moreover, these plants can provide a large amount of food for humans and animals. In addition, some plants can also provide materials for making clothes. The residents finally don't have to use animal skins to make clothes all the time. In order to seize the time to achieve some results, Zhang Ma used his magic power to stimulate the rapid growth of these plants many times and provided a large amount of seeds. Then all the residents worked together to plant these plants almost everywhere in the fairy palace. Almost overnight, everyone found that they were well fed and warmly dressed. The problem of food and clothing was solved in one fell swoop. Suddenly, from poverty to food and clothing, the residents of the fairy palace, especially the children, finally smiled brightly. With this alone, the status of King Lu and Karama in the Nordic fairy palace has risen rapidly. Even the god warriors such as Checkfried have become very respectful to King Lu. They respect Xiao Ming from the bottom of their hearts. If food is Karama's strong point, then architecture is Xiao Ming's strong point. Alchemy is the most suitable skill for building in Northern Europe. The world of Saint Seiya has no suppression on Xiao Ming's supernatural energy. He can use alchemy on a large scale to change the terrain and the structure of the ice layer. The temple part of the Nordic fairy palace, as a place to serve the great god Odin, is built magnificently and solemnly. But the houses of the people in Asgard are very poor. They are all short houses. There is no way, there are not many building materials here. And human resources are not sufficient. So Xiao Ming used alchemy to turn ice into building materials, and then used alchemy to change the shape of the materials, and they could directly become the most suitable houses. It only took Xiao Ming a few days to provide houses for all residents. Considering the population growth, Xiao Ming even built several times the number of vacant houses. However, Xiao Ming's aesthetic taste is really not good. The houses he built are sturdy and warm. But they are too ugly. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 920. Xiao Ming doesn't like fancy things. He only cares about practical effects and doesn't really care about aesthetics. But others still care. At the beginning, everyone was embarrassed to say it. After all, everyone thought that King Lu had done too much. It was a bit too much to bother others for such a thing as aesthetics. So everyone started to decorate by themselves. However, the problem was that the house built by Xiao Ming was made of very solid materials, and it was a large piece of boulder. Except for a few god warriors, it was difficult for others to damage it. But how to decorate it without destroying it? For a time, several god warriors became popular. Residents asked them for help. But then again, being able to become a god warrior means that these people are more focused on practicing, and they are not very interested in things like aesthetics. This made the residents of the fairy palace feel difficult. Later, it was the queen's sister, the little princess Freya, who broke the deadlock. She actually had her own house in the fairy palace. But when she saw so many vacant houses outside, she and her friends selected several as playrooms. What if there are no amusement facilities inside? She won't be polite. She jumped and pulled Green Xiaoming to work for her. After using alchemy to make a lot of toys and facilities, Freya said that the house was too ugly and she didn't like it. Xiaoming quickly patted his chest and guaranteed, "Little princess, just draw what you want, I will make it for you. It doesn't matter if you can't draw it, you can just say it." As a result, this little girl not only can't draw, but also can't speak clearly. Fortunately, Xiaoming's alchemy is really convenient. It doesn't matter, if you don't like it, just change it. Change it 17 or 18 times, and you can always make the little princess satisfied. The appearance of several beautiful children's playgrounds immediately caused an uproar among the residents. Through Freya's mouth, everyone understood that it was not difficult for King Lu to beautify the house. It seemed that he could open his mouth. Gradually, some of them began to ask Green Xiaoming for help, and Xiaoming readily agreed. Then there was an endless stream of people like this. Soon after, the Nordic Asgard became a gathering place for all kinds of architectural styles. There were buildings of different styles everywhere. Modern, contemporary, ancient, western, desert, eastern, all kinds of styles are available. Many of them are beyond the imagination of the locals of Asgard. Fortunately, Xiaoming has experienced so many worlds and has seen too many architectural styles. When the residents can't come up with good ideas, he will come up with various plans for them to choose from. Then it got out of control, and the characteristics of many worlds were integrated here. The Asgard became a hodgepodge. The architectural style of the elves in The Lord of the Rings is quite popular. There is also a high support rate for the heavy metal mechanical style. It is probably because of Xiajia's recent popularity. Even the architectural style of the Zerg is sought after by some people. You know, the buildings of the Zerg are actually alive. The appearance is also like the Zerg, with ridges and corners. There are actually people who like this. Some residents had already completed the renovation, but later found that they liked that style so much, so they asked Xiaoming again. For all these reasons, some people who like new things and hate old things even renovated 5 or 6 times. To be honest, each house looks good individually. But so many buildings of different styles piled together, the sense of disharmony is overwhelming, it is simply horrible. But the residents of Asgard just like it, and Xiaoming can't do anything about it. Of course, the residents are not children like Freya, and they all asked Xiaoming for help and gave rewards. However, the residents of Asgard are very poor. You can see from their lives. They can't give out anything too good. The food is even worse. Their current food is still brought by Xiaoming. They can only give some rough handicrafts. But if too many such things are given, everyone knows that King Lu doesn't need them. It's meaningless to give him a lot of rags to store. So under the leadership and organization of several god warriors, they collectively gave Xiaoming an unexpected treasure Asgard ring. Faith is a magical thing. The Asgardians have served Odin for generations, and they can already do something with faith. So they gathered the gratitude of all the residents of the Asgard to King Lu and condensed it into this Asgard ring. As long as he wears this ring, King Lu can use the cold breath of the ring to attack the enemy, and at the same time, it can greatly improve King Lu's resistance to cold. Every moment, as long as there are residents of the Asgard who are grateful to Xiaoming, the energy of the ring will continue to increase. The more people thank Xiaoming, the more it increases. It will only be consumed when Xiaoming uses it. This is a very good and thoughtful thing, but it is also a useless thing. Xiao Ming smiled helplessly after getting the ring. His own body can survive in space. Xiao Ming is not afraid of cold at all. The attack with cold air can only be said to be a little interesting, but it is not very useful in practice. Xiao Ming's fighting methods are already quite rich. It doesn't matter. The trouble is that the Asgard ring represents the gratitude of the residents of the Asgard to Xiao Ming. Only Xiao Ming can use it. Others can't use it at all. I can't even exchange it. There's no other way, so I'll just wear it. Xiao Ming likes this kind of thing that is full of other people's thoughts even if it's useless. The problems of food, clothing, and shelter have basically been solved. What about the problem of transportation? Now the residents of the fairy palace basically walk on their legs, which is too hard. Moreover, if they are exposed to the outside for a long time, they may get frostbite even if they are dressed warmly. So Xiao Ming took out the long-hidden 3rd level and 4th level biological controllers. Xiao Ming has basically learned how to make this item through the analysis of textbooks. Now controlling a few 3rd and 4th level creatures is not much help for Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming's original plan was to find an opportunity to trade this thing with certain forces. I believe that the armed forces of the New Han Kingdom will definitely be interested. But it is the same to give it to the fairy palace now. They can use the controller to control some creatures in the Arctic region, such as polar bears, dire wolves, Arctic foxes, seals, and so on. The big ones can be used as mounts or used to pull sleds, the small ones can be used for reconnaissance and hunting. If a group of marine creatures can be subdued, in addition to fishing, they can also ride them to play in the sea. This will almost completely change the lifestyle of the fairy palace. Such a gift is embarrassing. The fairy palace still accepted it. After Xiao Ming used alchemy to make hundreds of controllers, the energy in the Asgard ring surged again. Many residents were almost as grateful to King Lu as they were to Hilda. They believed that Lord Lu was definitely sent by the great god Odin to save the Nordic Asgard.